new botany teacher. So today we are going to start a new chapter. It's a very easy chapter that's called Morphology in Flowering Plants. Okay, so without any delay, let us just start. Alright. So first of all, the chapter is Morphology in Flowering Plants, right? So you come across the term morphology here. So first thing, what is morphology, right? Morphology means the study of external features of an organism. Now here we are going to discuss in this chapter in details the morphology of a flowering plant. That means angiosperm. Okay. So now see this diagram gives you the appearance of a typical flowering plant or angiosperm. Alright. See here, the plant body consists of a main axis that straightway runs throughout, right? A portion of it is inside the soil and a majority of it is above the soil, right? So this main axis of the plant body, this is going to bear a lot of or many types of lateral appendages, alright? Now, the main axis of the plant body being inside the soil and outside, we can divide it into two major parts. The part that remains inside the soil is called the root system, alright, and the part that remains outside the soil is called the shoot system. Alright, the major difference between them is as per their origin itself. The root system arises from the radicle of the seed, the radicle of the embryo, whereas the shoot system arises from the plumule of the embryo. This is a very important feature of root and the shoot system. So it arises from the radicle and the shoot system arises from the plumule. Alright. Now, see this. The root consists of root and its branches. So these are the lateral branches that arises from the root. Alright. Now, all of you know that the root, being underground part of the plant body, is usually non-green, and its major function is to absorb water and minerals from the soil. Not only that, it also provides anchorage to the plant body. Okay. Now, moving to the shoot system. The shoot system consists of stem and branches. Alright. The stem and its branches are the major part, followed by leaves that gives the green appearance to the plant, fruits, flowers and seeds. Alright. So these are the parts that would be involved with the shoot system. The shoot is usually partly greenish in color and it will be bearing so many lateral appendages. Alright. So in case of stem, all these parts that you can see, let me mark it here for you. So this main axis of the plant body, this is the stem, and the stem is divided into nodes and internodes, isn't it? So this being the node, and in between two nodes, the space that is present, the gap that is present is called the internode. Alright. Now, from the node usually arises the leaves that gives the green color appearance to the plant. Alright. And from, see, if this is the stem and this being the node and this is the leaf, right? So here there is an angle formed between the stem and the leaf. This angle is called axil. Alright. And in the axil always there is a bud present. This is a red colored mark. These are the buds. So if you ask me what are buds, buds are immature shoots that remains protected by immature leaves. Alright. So these buds would later on germinate and give rise to various parts like branches or flowers or both. Alright. Now, apart from the stem, the leaves and the buds, there are two other parts that are present. That is the flower, this being the flower, and this blue colored mark, these are the fruits. Alright. Inside the fruit would remain the seed. So these are all the parts associated with the stem. Fine. Now that we have talked about so many parts associated in the plant body, like the root branches, the stem and leaves and all the parts associated, we can say that all these parts are plant organs. Alright. So see, plant organs are structures which are born on the plant axis. Alright. These structures can again be divided into two parts, the vegetative organs and the reproductive organs. The vegetative organs of the plants are root, stem and leaves, whereas reproductive organs are flower, fruit and seeds. So this is an overall idea regarding the plant body. So in this chapter we are going to discuss each of these plant organs in details. Okay, that's what makes up the chapter. So let us start with root. So already all of you know that roots are the underground or descending part of the plant body that arises from the radicle of the embryo, right? So these are a few general characteristics of the root. First, it constitutes the descending or underground part of the plant body, which all of you know by now. Next, it is mostly cylindrical and non-green. Alright. Next, nodes and internodes are absent. Already all of you know that in the stem, the main part or the main axis remains divided into nodes and internodes. Such nodes and internodes are absent in the roots. Buds are also absent. So buds, which are the immature shoots, right, which will later on germinate giving rise to branches or else flower, that would also be absent in the roots. But yes, there are exceptions. In biology, you find exceptions in every field. So here the exceptions are sweet potato and wood apple. Sweet potato and wood apple, they possess adventitious buds by which they can give rise to new plants. Alright. Now, tip of the root would possess root cap. This is this thimble-shaped structure that will be present exactly at the tip of the root, so that while the root is moving inside the soil, it should not come across any kind of harm, or it should be protected against wear and tear. So that's why there would be a root cap that would be helping or protecting the root tip. Also, there will be minute unicellular hair-like structures that would be present nearby to the tip of the root, which will increase the surface area for absorption. Hence, they will be very helpful while absorbing water and minerals from the soil. Finally, the most important point. The roots are positively geotropic, positively hydrotropic and negatively phototropic. The meaning is that the roots will be moving towards gravity. They are going to move towards gravity. So positively geotropic. Next, they are going to move towards water. Alright, that's why positively hydrotropic. But of course they will be moving away from light, right? So that's why they are negatively phototropic. So these are the general characteristics of root. So now let us discuss the parts of root or zonation in the root. Look at this diagram. You can see that there are distinct zones that are present in the root, right? Starting with the tip. The tip or the apical part of the root consists of a thimble-shaped structure that's called the root cap. The root cap is going to be followed by the subapical zone that consists of meristems. Okay, so we call it zone of meristems. Now what are meristems? Meristems are a mass of undifferentiated cells which are in continuous division state. So they will continuously show division and add cells to the plant body. And this continuous addition of cells in the plant body will allow the plant indefinite growth. Okay. Next to the zone of meristems would remain the zone of elongation. In zone of elongation, the cells, they would not divide further, rather they would now start to elongate. Why will they elongate? They will elongate due to the emergence of a centrally located vacuole. Okay. Suppose this is a cell, a typical plant cell which consists of cell wall followed by cell membrane, then cytoplasm and a nucleus, isn't it? Now, if a vacuole starts to arise in a cell, the vacuole will expand and if the vacuole expands, the nucleus will be pushed towards the periphery and due to that the cell will elongate, isn't it? So this is why in the zone of elongation, cells which have now started to develop vacuole formation, they have started to elongate. Hence we call it zone of elongation. Finally, we have zone of maturation. In zone of maturation, finally the cells are all matured or differentiated. Means the cells now have a specific shape and they start performing a specific function. The major absorption of water and minerals will be shown in the zone of maturation. Why? Because zone of maturation will consist of minute thread-like unicellular root hairs. These root hairs, they will allow more and more of absorption of water and minerals because they will increase the surface area for absorption in roots. So because of the presence of root hair, the zone of maturation will show maximum absorption of water and minerals. Also, because it is the widest part of the root, that's why it is also going to provide anchorage to the plant body. Firmly, the root will be now able to hold on to the soil so that it can keep up the aerial part of the plant or the part which is above the soil erect and properly positioned. Alright. So let us now discuss each of these parts in details. Alright. So first, root cap. Root cap, as you know, is thimble shaped. Now, the root cap is made up of parenchyma cells. Okay, parenchyma cells are living cells. They consist of thin cellulosic cell wall, dense cytoplasm and a prominent nucleus. Okay, they are obviously multicellular and they protect the meristem. So the main function of the root cap itself is to protect the zone of meristems. These meristems are very much required for overall growth or indefinite growth of the plant, isn't it? So in that case, while the root is going inside, penetrating inside the soil, there may be certain hurdles or stone or some kind of, rough structures that might come across. So while penetrating inside the soil, if root cap is not present, the zone of meristems will be exposed to all these hurdles. And in that case, the zone of meristems might undergo certain kind of damage. This damage would not allow the plant to grow properly. That's why to protect the zone of meristem, the root cap is present. Another important function that is done by, or the secondary function, primary function of the root cap is of course protecting the meristem, but secondary function is that the root cap also from time to time will secrete mucilage that will lubricate its passage inside the soil. So it will keep secreting certain kind of mucilaginous substances that would allow the root to penetrate smoothly inside the soil. Apart from the primary and secondary function, there is another important thing about root cap that you must know. See, root cap is mostly present in the terrestrial plants which grows in land. Okay, because they have to then penetrate inside the soil, and while doing so the meristems might get damaged. But any such kind of situation will not arise in aquatic medium, isn't it? In the water, the roots won't be having as such problem to penetrate. So in that case, in aquatic plants like Lemna, Pistia, Eichhornia, etc., instead of root cap, root pockets are present. Root pockets are hand globe-like structures, and these hand globe-like structures, once if they're lost, they won't get regenerated. But that is not going to happen in case of root cap. If root cap undergoes some kind of damage, it can repair itself. It will be again regenerating itself. But in case of root pockets, once they are lost, they won't be regenerated. Alright? Now, moving to the next zone, that is zone of meristance. So, I have already told you about zone of meristance, the main feature of the zone of meristance. Here is the details. It is 1 mm in length and it consists of meristans. So, meristans are a mass of undifferentiated cells. Cells which do not have any specific shape or any specific function. They are in continuous division state. So they will continuously divide and add cells to the plant body, hence will allow the plant to have indefinite growth. Alright. Do remember the meristematic cells, they also have thin cellulosic cell wall, dense cytoplasm and a prominent nucleus, but they do not possess vacuole. Okay. Now, next is zone of elongation. So, it is 4 to 8 mm in length and the cells here, they have lost the power of division and they elongate. Okay, how are they elongating? I have already discussed here. As you know that in the zone of meristance, the cells are continuously dividing, right? The cells are continuously dividing, but they don't have a vacuole. So as soon as these cells, they are continuously dividing and adding cells in this direction, isn't it? So the cells that have generated from the meristance, they are going to form the zone of elongation. So what I am trying to say here is that the zone of elongation is going to consist of cells which are the product of the meristance. The meristance are dividing and continuously adding cells, and this cell, they are going to form the zone of elongation. Okay. So by the time the cells are in the zone of elongation, they do not divide further, rather they now start to form a vacuole, due to which the cells will elongate. Along with that, even this part of the root will also start to elongate. So if it is asked that which zone of the root will allow the increase in length, so your answer will be zone of elongation. It's the zone of elongation that allows increase in length of the roots. Okay. Next is zone of maturation. Alright. Now regarding zone of maturation, this part is the zone of maturation. So the bulk of the root is made up of zone of maturation. So zone of maturation consists of mature or differentiated cells. Differentiated cells means now the cells will take up a specific shape and start performing a specific function. So they have become matured now. Okay, they will not divide and they will have a specific function to do. So they are regarded as mature cells. Even the cell wall will become very thick in such cells. Okay, alright. Now, the zone of maturation is marked by the presence of unicellular root hairs. These root hairs, they will increase the surface area for absorption in roots. Hence, maximum absorption of water and minerals will be occurring in the zone of maturation. Alright. So, these are the various parts present in the root. I hope all of you are clear about it. Next, let us discuss types of root. Now, there are 3 types of root based on their origin. From where exactly they are originating, accordingly we have 3 types of root. First is the taproot. Okay. The taproot, as you can see in the diagram, it is the type of root which consists of a very prominent axis of the root, that is called the primary root. Alright. And it originates from radical. This is very, very important. It originates from the radical. Directly from the radical, the primary root would arise, and from there will be various lateral branches that would arise. Like the first order of branch would be termed as secondary roots. From the secondary root, the branch that would arise, that would be known as tertiary root, and further fine branches that would arise from the tertiary root, they are called the rootlets. Okay. Now see, this primary root, secondary root, tertiary root and rootlets together as a whole will be termed as the taproot system. Okay, so taproot system directly arises from the radical of the seed. It consists of primary root, which is the most prominent part of the root, from which would arise various branches that would be termed as secondary, tertiary and rootlets. Alright. Now do remember one thing again, that here in the taproot system, all these branches which are arising from the primary root, these branches, they will be endogenous in origin. That means they will be arising from within, from inside, from within the pericycle portion. So these branches are endogenous. This is another important point, so that's why I am highlighting it. These branches are going to be endogenous in origin. Why? Because in case of stem also bears branches, right? But the branches in stem will be exogenous. So it's a very important thing for you to remember. In roots, the branches are endogenous, whereas in case of stem, they will arise from outer to the pericycle. So we call it exogenous. Now, it's a very example for taproot system will be most dicots. In dicots, mostly we'll be finding taproot system. Now, moving to the next type of root is fibrous root. Okay. Fibrous root, the origin is still radical. Origin wise, it's still the same like taproot system. So even fibrous root system arises from the radical of the seed. But then here the primary root is short-lived. So you cannot see any prominent part here like the primary root, which you can see here in the diagram, right? So here the primary root is short-lived and eventually it will be replaced by thin thread-like structures which together will be termed as fibrous root system. Now this is very, very commonly found in the monocots. Alright. Finally the third, that is adventitious root. Now roots which arises from any other part of the plant body other than radical, that will be known as adventitious roots. So these are specialized roots. They may arise from any part of the plant body, but they will not arise from the radical. So they do not arise from radical. This is very, very important. Alright. Okay. Like in the diagram I am showing you the adventitious roots for sweet potato. This diagram is of sweet potato. So other examples are grass, monstera, banyan tree, etc. Alright. So there are three types of root. First is taproot system. It arises from the radical. And here the radical will give rise to the primary root, which is the most prominent part of the root. Okay. Next is fibrous root system. Fibrous root system will also arise from radical, but here primary root will be short-lived. Hence, it will be replaced by thread-like structures and together that will make a fibrous root system. And the third is adventitious roots. These will arise from any other part other than the radical. So, we will call them specialized roots or adventitious roots. Okay. Next are the functions of root. So after all this discussion, I think all of you have understood what are the functions of root. But then mainly these are the points which you should remember. The functions of root are as follows. First is absorption of water and minerals. That's the primary purpose. Apart from that, it provides anchorage to the plant parts. So the plant is able to stand upright due to the anchorage provided by the roots. Then storage of reserve food material. That is, sometimes you can see that the root is storing the food. so that when there is unfavorable condition or the plant is not able to photosynthesize properly, all the leaves have been shedded off, at that time it is the root which has stored the food so far will be allowing the plant to survive. And finally is synthesis of plant growth regulators or PGRs. The plant growth regulators, these are certain simple organic substances and they are secreted by the roots. So just like hormones are to animals, they are to plants. So they are very important for the overall growth and development of the plant body. And they are going to be again secreted by roots, hence it's also a very important function. Alright? So with all this discussion about roots, this is for today's class. In the next class, we'll start with modifications of roots. Thank you.